It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by Cal Racing Cares. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. Today, Ray, we're going to talk about a recent development between Churchill Downs and the daily racing form. Churchill's meet just ended, and we learned that throughout the meet, the daily racing form wasn't available on the grounds at Churchill Downs because Churchill froze out the DRF. It's hard to believe when you think about the history of these two companies in racing, dating back to the 1800s, that this occurred. What's your takeaway?
I just wonder what Matt Wynn, the impresario of the Derby, and Joe Hurst, the dean of daily racing form writers, must be thinking about this. It's just ridiculous. Churchill Downs apparently was upset that the racing form wanted money for Churchill Downs to be in East Coast editions of the racing form, simulcast editions. And they just said, well, we're going to start our own product, the Churchill Downs Betting Guide. So they did, and they got a similar product at the fairgrounds, where the form also is not available on track.
Well, I get that Churchill Downs has a bottom line, as all private public companies do, and in particular public companies, they have the stock price to worry about, and Churchill certainly has shown an inclination to worry about its stock price, and they're doing quite well. So I get it from a business standpoint. However, I think their strategy is off here. You know, they are developing their own product, which is Brisnet Past Performances and Analysis. It's called the Churchill Downs Betting Guide, and it is $5 versus the daily racing form's egregious $10 price, 11 off track. So why not just let the daily racing form stay and people can decide for themselves? Because Brisnet provides a great product that's on par with the daily racing form, at least. Some people like it more than the DRF.
Right.
So why not just see what the market says? To me, I think the market would say, I'd rather pay $5 for a similar product than 10.
Yeah, well, this has just been a pattern of Churchill Downs. And for example, if you want to watch Churchill Downs races, you can't get them on TVG. They're on TVG2 currently, only because when HRTV was sold to TVG by the Stronach Group, and there was, at the time, there was an existing contract between HRTV and its one-time co-owner, Churchill Downs, to show Churchill Downs tracks. I'm sure when those contracts expire, we probably won't see any of the Churchill Downs tracks races on television. They want you to go to Twin Spires to see it. You can't watch their replays anywhere other than their websites and their products. They just don't seem to want to cooperate with other businesses in our industry.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes you have to make cold, hard business decisions. I respect that. But I do think there are other factors to consider when you're talking about down the road, how it might come back to bite you. And if you continue to alienate other companies, I think that is a consideration. And, you know, you better show some results, in my opinion, before you go too far with some of these things. For example, Calder, now Gulfstream Park West, previously still owned by Churchill Downs, but the meet is leased to the Stronach Group. Since that happened, that meet has done quite a bit better in terms of handle than it did when it was Calder. And Churchill tore down the grandstand, and basically there's just nothing there, and they're still doing better, which goes to show you that maybe Churchill Downs wasn't very good at operating racing, and still might not be, besides the Kentucky Derby, because their racing meet isn't exactly tearing it up. And again, it may go back to the fact that their priorities are different than other companies in the racing business. They're a casino company that looks at the bottom line seemingly no matter what.
Yeah, no, in the case of Calder, when they got the casino at Calder, they ran the racing operation into the ground. And from the time of their last year of operating a meeting at Calder until the meeting that just closed at Gulfstream Park West, run by the Stronach Group, handle has gone up more than 2.5 times on a per starter basis. There's an industry watchdog named Chris Russo who analyzed some of the data, and Gulfstream Park has done a terrific job with it. Churchill, they didn't care about it. The Gulfstream Park West has gotten so strong, in fact, that they're actually beating Churchill Downs, the fall meeting at Churchill Downs, on a per starter basis on how much is wagered per each runner. So aside from the stock price, which is doing fantastic for all of the Churchill Downs shareholders, I don't really think Churchill Downs, either they don't care about operating their race meetings or they're just not very good at it.
Another issue here is the cost of the data anyway. I mean, we've talked about this before, and, in my opinion, it's just like, the concessions being overpriced at some racetracks. The information should be basically free. I mean, why, if you want people to gamble their money and put it into the handle, then allow some of these things to be cheaper or free so that they can take that money and put it in, especially with the new IRS regulations, which have given a bump to several racetrack meetings so far. Churchill hasn't shown quite the increase that I thought maybe we would see from them. But when it comes to the information, I still think that should be almost free or free in order to, get people to learn more about the sport, use the information, and instead put their money into the handle.
Yeah, it's, well, first of all, Equibase is owned by the Jockey Club, which is a not-for-profit company that owns multiple for-profit companies, and owned by Thoroughbred Racing Associations of North America, which are all of the racetracks. Equibase was started supposedly as a tool to help develop new fans, and what it turned into was a profit center for its owners. They make a lot of money off of Equibase. So I think that's a mistake. Basic information should be free, and it's not.
Well, here's a question. Will the Daily Racing Forum be available at the Kentucky Derby next year? Will things change between now and then between the racetrack company and the DRF? Because it's just hard to imagine, thinking back on the history of the sport, that the Daily Racing Forum wouldn't be available at the Kentucky Derby. We have a poll. Let us know what you think at PaulickReport.com. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by Cal Racing Cares. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.